But now Uncle Dick was, he had some amazing stories. He was compared to Sergeant York. And his one battle on July 11th, he and Private Nymphy, his rifleman, who was actually from Bancroft, Michigan, were part of a unit that captured and or eradicated a 40 German platoon that they ran into. And they chased the Germans into a house, at least 30 of them, the ones that survived. And somebody had to go in and get them, and open the door, and hopefully have them surrender. And that was Uncle Dick. And he went in under extreme fire, and almost lost his life at that point in time. But for that, he got the Distinguished Cross, the Distinguished Medal Cross. So, and he also got the Purple Heart as well. When I was going through this to prepare it, it was actually Father's Day, and it struck me, that he died just short of his 23rd birthday. And I thought, gosh, you didn't have a chance to be a father, grandfather, get married. It just it was just the day and the time I was doing this preparation. So that was pretty sad. And then I ran into a letter that he had sent Granny on July 17th. Now, he passed away on July 26th in action, and the letter was, he went to Dunlap. He was on scholarship for football. But the guy he had to be very brilliant. He was a great writer. And so I'll paraphrase some of the things that he said. And the first thing was very human. He said, when we got here, we were nervous, we were scared, and then we got kind of into battle, we had successes, but he did say, he said, we sort of all accepted or adopted a fatalistic point of view that if it's coming, meaning death, it's going to come no matter what we do, and they were willing to accept that. He also talked about the hedgerows, like I said before, on how close the fighting was and how quick you had to be to respond to your enemy. He talked about the beauty of France. He said that under normal circumstances he would like to come back in peacetime because they had beautiful houses, beautiful poppies, and so he saw the beauty of the country even though it was basically in a state of war. He also said that he acknowledged it was Aunt Dee Dee's birthday, and that he asked that she save her nose for his kiss when he returned, which I thought was really, really touching. And then he said this sentence, which you could use this anywhere, but he said, "War is the most horrible trial of life." And just to write that letter during the war, I have no idea where he wrote it, and saying the things that he did had a lot of depth and perspective, and so I was very impressed with that. So, my toast to him would basically be that he was a great warrior. He was a great person. He was part of the generation that Tom Brokaw referred to as the greatest generation, that not only liberated France but protected our liberties. And I would hope at some point in some place that Dee Dee will get her kiss on her nose at some point. And then I want to read you a quote from the north wall of the chapel at the hospital, at the cemetery, and it says, "Think not only upon their passing, remember the glory of their spirit." Thank you for listening. We have a record that they interviewed Uncle Dick on excerpts from Army.
George Fuller, the Army Homeland and Track. Today the P-Plus 46. The skies are gray and heavy with rain. The mud is thick and deep. Today the fighting is quiet along this western front, but last week it was a different story. The fighting was fierce north of Saint Lo. Infantrymen thrashed their way forward, followed by rugged combat engineers. Leading the silent type is one of these combat engineers from the 40th Infantry Division. His battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel U.W. Colton of Burl, Utah, yesterday recommended him for one of America's highest awards. Meet Second Lieutenant Richard A. Kersting of 300 East High Street, Oxford, Ohio. Say, Lieutenant, what's the story behind this award? Well, one day last week, the CEO sent 3 of us out on a recon. There was the driver of Private Marriott from San Joaquin Valley, California, a rifleman, PFC Max Nimpy of Bancroft, Michigan, and myself. Our job was to reconnoiter a road that follows the Lear River into St. Lo and clear it of mine. We started out about 12 after lunch, and about 2 miles from our command post, I had the driver park the car. I figured there might be Germans around, even though the 30th Infantry had gone through that same district about 48 hours ago. So Nimpy and I started out down the road on foot. About 40 yards down the road, we ran into one of our American tanks. The crew told us that there was a German Mark III tank just around the bend. Us to try and knock it out. I told them okay, so we cut back from the road, picked up one of our bazooka teams, and came up on the German tanks from the side. Nimpy and I both fired at his vision slit, and the bazooka team let him have it 4 times. One of the Jerrys jumped out and got halfway across the road before we all took a crack at him. He didn't run after that. And what about the rest of the tank crew? We didn't investigate too carefully. The tank was smashed, but our shooting had caused one heck of a racket. Before we knew it, 2 Germans walked out on the road with their hands over their heads. We searched them and sent them back to the rear with the 2 men on the bazooka team. And that left only you and Nimpy, right? Yes, sir, that's correct. Well, we had the American tank. I figured now that we had knocked out 1 tank and 3 Jerrys, there might be more in the area. Why not run up our store? So off we went. Nimpy and myself, side of the road, and the tank following behind about 75 yards. My idea was to be aggressive. I know a little German, and Nimpy is the best heckler in the battalion. So when we come to a house, I'd shout, "There, give up." And Nimpy would yell like a wild bull. Then if no one came out, we tossed in a few hens at him and said, "Did you take any prisoners in these houses?" Not a one. The grenades took care of that. Finally, we came to a meeting in a sort of semicircle. I figured it was some sort of headquarters because I had seen 4 Germans running in that direction as they came down the road. I told Nimpy to go back to the tank and tell them to move up into a position where they could fire on the buildings with their 75 millimeters. And what was your plan, Lieutenant? Well, it was simply to make so much noise, Jerry would think he was surrounded by at least a battalion as they clean out at the post headquarters. I figured the tank could cover the front of the building, and I covered the flank, and who would cover the rear? The rear, I guess. We didn't find 2 rifles on our hedgerow, and I threw them to cover the Nimpy and I as we approached the building. It helped matters, but I still wish we had a whole platoon there. So you, Nimpy, the tank, and your hoodies surrounded the buildings, eh? That's right, sir, and we closed in. Nimpy on the right, and I took the left. Nimpy would fire on the build's windows and cut the blue streak, so I did the same thing on the other side of the building. Every now and then I'd run around with a few shots come out of the house you surrounded, and then tear back to the side and fire some more. Finally, we closed in and saw 2 Germans in the courtyard. They took a bead on Nimpy, but they didn't see me. I let them have it and got 1. Nimpy got the other. To make certain there were no Germans inside the building, I signaled the tank to fire a shot in the 2 end buildings in the semicircle. The tank repeated this firing until all the buildings were destroyed except the middle one. The Germans. I signaled to Nimpy to start yelling again and close in. I got the building first, little on the side, till I got the front door. The door opened and jumped back. I yelled, "Hand it over, help, hands up." And out came a German. He still had his gun, so I kicked it out of his hand and fired at a German. Was he the only one that came out? No, the next one was the German lieutenant. And he very obligingly brought his whole platoon with him. Well, how many were there all told? 30. And were they at 31? Nimpy and I lined them up against the building, told them to drop their guns, and then marched them back to the rear and turned them over to me. Well, Lieutenant, that's what I call a real afternoon. What a 30 prisoners and 9 dead. Lieutenant Kersting, you at CFC Nimpy certainly deserve the praise of all America. Yes, you and the thousands of other combat engineers that are right now battling at fronts all over the world. From France, the Army now returns to New York.